Deputy Asia Director at Human Rights Watch, Phil Robertson, joins us now live from Bangkok. Thanks so much for being with us, Phil. You know, the details in this report, they are horrific, but I have to say, wasn't most of this already known?
Well, this group of Rohingya that we're speaking about, the 130,000 who are detained in these camps, they've been a bit forgotten. The reality is that many of the focus of the international community has been on the group that were displaced in 2016 and 2017 and fled to Bangladesh, fleeing crimes against humanity, act of genocide and ethnic cleansing. This group is actually people from central and southern Rakhine state who were displaced in 2012. And they have been locked down in detention centers. The government calls them internally displaced persons camps, but really they function as detention centers, bereft of any sort of livelihoods, no freedom of movement, no access to health services or education for the children, really a very dire existence, and surrounded by barbed wire and various different checkpoints with Burmese security officials who extort people for trying to move through those checkpoints. It's really hell on earth for these people. And we found that, in fact, it constitutes the crime of apartheid and persecution. And this is the first time that Human Rights Watch has identified a case of apartheid in the Asia-Pacific region.
Okay, that is remarkable. And what is the government's rationale here? I mean, these are, if they are displaced people, as you're saying the government says, what right do they have to basically keep them in detention?
Well, precisely. These people should be allowed to return to their homes. They should be allowed to reintegrate back into the areas from where they fled. That was what was done with the ethnic Rakhine, the Buddhist Rakhine who were displaced in 2012. They all went back. But these groups of Muslims, both Rohingya and a few thousand Haman Muslims, are essentially held in these detention camps indefinitely. It is a discriminatory policy of segregation and lockdown.
Okay.
And the international community needs to demand that it end.
You know, Phil, though there have been, I hate to sound cynical, but I mean, there really have been so many reports by both governments and non-governmental organizations clearly documenting so many human rights abuses. Yours adds another layer. Yet nothing ever seems to improve for the Rohingya. Why?
Well, I mean, you're dealing with a Myanmar government that has no real political will to improve the situation. They essentially have locked these people down and thrown away the key. This is why there has to be a concerted effort by the international community to really look at conditioning aid going into these areas based on benchmarks with key human rights provisional measures, measures that, for instance, would say, like, we're not going to continue to support these kind of camps unless people have freedom of movement or unless they have access to services.
So, if this continues this way and nothing does improve, what is the end game for the Rohingya people?
Well, I mean, they keep hoping that there's going to be international justice, that there's going to be an opportunity to return home. These are the sort of things that the International Court of Justice and possibly International Criminal Court are going to be looking at, but they are long-term processes. There is not a lot of hope, and that is the things that the Rohingya are telling us from these camps. Some of them have said, if I can't ever leave here, just kill me now, because it's worse. It's better than living in this continued deprivation.
Phil Robertson, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for being with us, as always, there from Bangkok.